so today I want to tell you guys about a horror story, right? And I think it's fitting. It's October, Halloween, right? I want to talk to you guys about a horror story that my first particular deal that we lost our tail on an off-market property, first investment, thinking we're going to be property brothers. I'm a twin, so if you guys haven't met him yet, you guys need to check out Josh Aubrey's YouTube channel or JDA Financials. We talk about a lot of credit stuff, but anyways, we went to this particular property thinking we was gonna win. It's real estate. We're gonna make a lot of money. Fixing and flipping houses is the way to go. You want to eventually get to a landlord status so you can buy your time back. All the perks of being an entrepreneur. Here's our avenue to actually do so. I didn't have any money. My brother actually played in the NFL, so he forked over all the money for the particular project. Now, I didn't technically lose any money, but I never got paid at the same time. So it's a little bit of working for free, I would say, for months and months on hand. So with that being said, exactly what happened and how did we go wrong? Obviously, rule number one, never consult with somebody that's not in the business, right? I would say that was our biggest mistake while fixing and flipping the property. Now, ultimately, it was our responsibility to do our own due diligence because we knew it was a thin deal, but we thought $10,000. We thought in real estate, thin deals are good deals, regardless, as long as we make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. That was the most amount of money that we'd ever generated outside of playing football. Because like I said, my brother was in the NFL at the time. So this was the most amount of money we had ever made. So we talk about our story and where we come from and all that good stuff. It's an opportunity for us to change the family tree, swing the pendulum in the right direction. So with that being said, we went out there, we spoke with our realtor because we had bought a house before, or he had bought a house before. I never bought a house, so I didn't know anything about these closing costs. I knew about realtor fees, but I didn't realize they came out when you actually sold the particular property, right? So there were some things that we didn't factor into the sale of the property that ultimately ended up coming and biting us in the butt. So essentially what ended up happening is my brother bought this property and it was his homestead. And right next door was a classic driving for dollars home. The lady never came home to take care of her dog. The dog lived in the backyard. The backyard had a pool, but it was more like a pond. Mosquitoes was running rampant in that particular backyard. Everything was going south with the house. The house didn't have any grass, right? There was leaves everywhere. It was just completely abandoned. The softening fascia, you guys don't understand what that is. Softening fascia is where the gutter's attached to. All that was down. It was just a bad experience all the way around. And we go into this particular property and we're looking at it. And I'm like, you know what? Let me reach out because my brother lives here. Let me reach out. I've never bought a home. I'm getting my credit right. I'm making a decent amount of money, but every bank wanted me to have 2 years of tax returns because I was commission sales. So I go out and I reach out to the lady. My auntie notified me of owner financing, right? What a great tool to build wealth. But owner financing was actually out there and available. And I was like, okay, let me reach out to the seller and see if they'll be interested in doing the owner finance. I had a little bit of money saved up. I could potentially come up with some down. Let's just talk numbers and see what we can do. So what ended up happening is I ended up reaching out to her and got her information. Asked her, did she want to sell the particular property? Definitely interested in selling it, but she wanted to sell it for full price. And the house really didn't have too much work. It needed to be done. There was a lot of neglect, but as far as bones of the property, pretty good. The pool needs probably the most expensive rehab is the pool, right? The most expensive thing in the rehab was the pool. But outside of that, everything was kind of minute. So I reached out to her, see if she's interested in selling, definitely interested in selling for the right price. So no, just understanding this industry, no typically means not yet. So with that being said, what we ended up doing was we ended up waiting. We just waited. And all of a sudden the house flooded one time while she was gone and she wasn't around, right? Because the dog lived there by itself. It flooded. And in that instance, what she ended up doing, she got tired, just like anyone else that's not living in a home, that's paying a mortgage for a house they're not even living at. She got tired of taking care of that particular property. So we ended up going out and actually making an offer on that particular property. We negotiated, talked to our realtor, and we came up with a number. The house was worth about 140. We came up with a number. The house was worth about 180. We came up with 140. In that instance, right there, it needed 20 grand in repairs, or about, not 20, I would say around 16 grand in repairs, probably closer to 20 now, but it needed about 16 grand in repairs, and we would be in and out of that particular property and sold, right? Every house over there that's that square foot with a pool sells for $100 a square foot. It was 1,800 square foot. Was going to be able to sell it for 180,000. So that was our mindset going into it. What a bad mindset to have. It ended up costing us a lot of money, right? So we ended up buying the property, and we consulted with our real estate agent, said, hey, this would be a great deal, home run deal. You guys should easily make about 10 to 15,000. She said, hey, if you go in there and you do the work yourself, you should be okay. If you don't have to pay a lot of contractors and they're gonna eat up all your profit, right? Let me tell you this, in a flip, if you gotta do the work yourself, it's not a deal. That's not a deal. That's a minimum wage activity, and you can't get rich doing minimum wage activities. So never do the work yourself. And even if you are a licensed contractor and you can't do the work yourself, it's probably best that you don't. You just leave it alone, hire somebody else to do it. That way you can focus on making another $20,000, locking up another deal, and ultimately getting a wholesale flip, whatever the case may be, even on the finance, it doesn't matter. Just go focus on what makes money and outsource the rest. So in that instance, what we ended up doing, we ended up trying to do the work ourselves. Now, we couldn't lay laminate, but one thing we knew we would be okay with was actually painting. So we started painting. We started putting the floors we started putting the tape everywhere, covering up all the floors, make sure we're protecting. We're hiring our little cousins to come in and paint. Anybody and everybody in our particular household, in our family, they were helping. It was a family job. I'm telling you, we're changing legacies here, right? We're doing something totally different than in the past. And we get in there, we're doing it, call over my uncle, change over the light fixtures. And next thing you know, my dad is on the way. And we're like, Pops, where are you? He said, hey man, I'm an hour away. He's always an hour away, regardless where he is. I'm an hour away, man. I'm down the street. I'm at Taco Bell. Y'all want some meat? Yeah, pick us up some tacos. Pops bring us some tacos, and he has a spray gun. And a spray gun typically can knock out a job. At least it speeds up the process when it comes to painting. But it wasn't any old spray gun. It was a spray gun for a car. So with that being said, I didn't know. Obviously, nobody in the house knew exactly what it was because we're not in the business. And he started spraying. And we was only supposed to cover the walls. We weren't supposed to paint the ceilings. Obviously, that's no. You paint everything in the house, not just the ceiling. Not just the walls. We're supposed to paint just the walls because we knew that we didn't have the budget to do the ceilings. So we're just trying to do the bare minimum, spruce it up a little bit, put it right back on the market. In that particular process, my dad started painting. He covered up all the ceiling fans, and he started painting. He had these goggles on, and the goggles had paint on them. He had paint all over him. The ceiling we had white paint and black paint and original paint, which is if you have a original white, and you paint a little bit of white on it, the new white is going to stand out versus the old white. So in that instance, what ended up happening was we had this line in our ceiling that forced us to repaint this or to paint the ceilings, because now it was a white, it had some gray up there. It was all white with some gray, and then the original white, which was a little bit darker because people live in the house, dirt, all that stuff accumulate on the ceiling. So with that being said, we had to go in there and hire somebody else to come in and paint, right out of our budget. Next thing you know, we call in the professionals to get the pool done. Just because it was a glaring issue, we knew we needed to get that squared away. So we call them out. The bid we got was $3,500 before we closed. We ended up closing. It ended up being about $5,200 because they had to go in there and do some work that we didn't know it was there. Obviously, I think they knew it was there. Obviously, a bid is just a low portion. And then when you get ready to do it, you obviously move the price up on them. That's exactly what they did, a little classic bait and switch on us. Right, we were new. Obviously, you can take advantage of new people that way. So that's exactly what we did. Ate up some of our profit. We started hiring people to come over, $10 an hour. paid some family relatives that was familiar with that particular industry. They came in, cleaned up all the paint. I mean, we literally painted the sockets. We had a stove, we painted over the stove. It was a nightmare. Then we ended up putting the property on the market. We finished it up, put the property on the market. Then our realtor said, hey, you guys probably want to go ahead and put some grass on here. It was like, grass? We didn't talk about grass. Now we got to sod this thing. So instead of paying anybody, because literally we know we're not going to make a lot of money on this particular property, we ended up going and getting some sod and putting it down ourselves, borrowing a truck, putting it down ourselves. Now you talk about a back-breaking experience. Definitely not one I would recommend for anybody. But we go in there and we break our back, put the side down, we get done with the thing. We put it back up for sale, and we had multiple issues. There was mosquitoes during the showing in the backyard. We didn't spray for mosquitoes. A big no-no. I'm letting you guys know, if you got a pool or you got mosquito, before you had a mosquito issue before you bought the house, you probably gonna need to spray to get rid of the mosquitoes. That way people can go walk in and out and really truly enjoy the oasis. Because when we finished the home, it was a beautiful home. Truly enjoyed the oasis that the property had. But you can't enjoy it if you got to rush back in the house because the mosquitoes are tearing you up. So we ended up paying for some guy to do the floors. We did the whole 9 on the particular property, made it look pretty nice again. It looked like somebody home. We was very proud of the particular property, but it really didn't work out for us. We let it sit for a couple of months, and then we started networking amongst real estate events. And next thing you know, we heard about closing costs, realtor fees and closing costs. They said when you sell the property, typically that's about 10% of whatever it sells for. That's when we knew that we were in trouble. 10% of whatever it sells for, we're only supposed to make $10,000. Maybe 15, but we know that's not the case. We're trying to squeeze out $5,000 to $10,000 on this thing. I want to get paid at least $1,000. My brother's trying to get paid at least his money back, right? So we found out about these closing costs, and we just said, okay, forget it. It is what it is. Right now, we went to the bank. We put 20% down, which is a big no-no. We put 20% down at the bank, bought it conventionally. We put our own money into the particular property. Now we got to pay realtor fees, closing costs, concessions. What is a concession? Right? These were all things that we had no idea about, right? So you talk about realtor fees. That's typically 6%. Right, you got to pay the buyer's agent and the seller's agent. That's the person that put the house on the market and the person that brings the buyer for the house that's on the market. They get paid 3% each. Then you got closing costs, which is typically about $1,000 or $2,000, depending on your particular market. And then you have concessions. Now, concessions is not really talked about unless you've sold properties. But typically people look at the realtor fees, but never look at the concessions. If it's a hot market, 9 times out of 10, you probably won't have as many concessions because people are trying to buy the house, and typically the more concessions you get, the less houses, less opportunities, right? They'll take the highest offers outside of those all without the concessions, right? Whichever nets them the most amount of money. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say. And then they'll get whatever nets them the most amount of money. But in this particular market at this particular time, it really wasn't a hot market. So concessions typically average around $2,000 to $5,000. Typically, whenever you talk about a concession, right? Or they're throwing a home warranty, make it a little bit cheaper. But typically, it's about $2,000 to $5,000 for concessions, which isn't anything wrong with it at the time. Now, knowing what I know now, I just raise the price to cover the concessions, and then we bring it to the table. No problem at all. Everybody keeps making money. But at that particular point, it got very expensive. I think the concessions was about $3,500. Like I said, which it wasn't a problem because we was just looking to get the money out, the 20%. We had $40,000 sitting in the property from when we sold it, but after all the money we put in, essentially the only thing we netted was the down payment that we originally put into the property. So the realtor that told us it was a good deal, she ended up making more money than we did in that particular property. And we learned so much from a standpoint of obviously always do your numbers. And this is why I always push for OPM. If you're new and you're using a hard money loan, the hard money company, like my first flip, the hard money company told us that we was off on our repairs. And lo and behold, we was off about $15,000 on repairs. Now we bought it right, so we still made $30,000. And when we did the work, it appreciated a lot in that 9-month period of holding it. But essentially, they were correct, right? And if I have a hard money company evaluate that deal, they tell me that that's not a deal at all. I'm going to lose money on that particular property, regardless what the realtors say, regardless who's in your ear. They're going to let you know exactly what you can expect, because when they look at properties, they're going to look at it and say, man, you know, it's a good deal or it's not a good deal. But it's no either or. It's just that a good deal or not a good deal. There's no maybes. There's no if you do this. There's no anything, right? So with that being said, that's exactly what happened. We learned a ton from that particular property. We learned to buy right. We learned to get education. To be honest, that property was a blessing in disguise, because what ended up happening, we called a mentor. We called a bandit sign. We became a motivated seller. We called a bandit sign, and we was trying to get out of that particular headache. We had to lick our wounds and take that loss. But essentially, we found some mentors that was doing the business, that understood contracts, that drew them up, that know how to make offers, that know where we need to buy the properties from. They was literally flipping the house around the corner. So with that being said, we got around the right people, and essentially we was able to take off in this particular business. But trust me, it was tough up front, because that was all our money that was going down the drain. And 9 times out of 10, nobody has that money just sitting around. Nobody has $55,000 that they can sink into a property, take a loss. Yeah, they get their 40 back, they get 40 back, but nobody has that type of money to sit around there and lose. So it was really an eye-opening experience for us. We absolutely hated it ended that way, but like I said, it was a blessing in disguise. 90% of investors, 90% of people, period, only do one deal. And I'm pretty sure if we would have actually, if we never met those particular mentors, if we would have never met our mentors, I'm pretty sure we would have been in trouble. We probably would have been the 99% that only do one deal. So luckily we did meet somebody. We got around the right people, because we understood what this industry could do for anybody, not just me, but for anybody, the average Joe that's looking to make a big check, paychecks that they've never seen before. So it was actually a blessing in disguise, thank God. But with that being said, hey, thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, please, hopefully you guys give me a thumbs up on it. If not, that's perfectly fine. We're gonna drop some more content anyways. But my name is Jordan Aubrey, real estate investor. This is your Jordan Aubrey YouTube channel, where we talk about all things real estate, credit, finance, anything that can help you make a little bit more money or save a little bit more money, however you want to do it. But with that being said, hey, you guys have a great day. Keep winning.